Welcome to The Weekly. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Chris.
And this week on The Weekly, first, our new segment, the terrifying tariff wars. So let's talk a little bit. So it was all fun and games when those, imaginary numbers, and I was joking that, it's going to get up to a bazillion, gajillion percent. Right. But now shit got real.
Okay.
And people that I care about are in danger of losing their livelihoods and their businesses. And I'm speaking, of course, of Cephalofair Games. So Isaac Childress was interviewed by Polygon and talking about how things are fucked up right now, because if you remember, Gloomhaven did that giant crowdfunder where they funded like a revised version of Gloomhaven, an RPG, a mini game, and more miniatures, and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, that was a while ago. Right. And they fulfilled parts of it so far, but right now they have containers basically stuck in China. So remember, we're talking about 145% tariffs that have now magically made their way to 100 or 245, like just imaginary numbers. And so Childress has said in this interview, these tariffs are a doomsday scenario for the U.S. board game industry. It is not just economically feasible. It is just not economically feasible to bring board games into the U.S. at such a tariff rate, which is already starting to dry up sales, causing an impact on retailers, distributors, and that I suspect will be much worse than COVID. So also talking to their Chief Operating Officer, Price Johnson, we're not getting that product. It's staying over unless something changes. It's staying over there unless something changes. And we're going to need to pivot essentially to our U.S. sales operations. So it looks like this. So fulfillment of this second edition. So it went into full pre-production in 2023, earned slightly more than $5 million on backer kit, part of a really large scale campaign. And it looks like they've got containers stuck over there that are not getting anywhere. So Johnson said he's been in contact with at least 60 other publishers, and all of them are hitting the brakes, even as overseas factories begin to ramp up for the holiday season. So the whole industry is hurt. It's a ripple effect, he said. So a little bit more about Gloomhaven. Yeah, so Childress also said nothing is in limbo quite yet, as the factory is still assembling the copies, but we're working on solutions ahead of needing to move the assembled copies. So they might have to, sometimes it's a little extra expense, but they kind of, maybe let's ship it to Vietnam first, and then if Vietnam has worked something out with America, then we'll ship it to, so they may have to play those games. But already I've seen a pretty depressing coverage on YouTube about how this is affecting China. We don't really consider it's kind of faceless, factories that are supplying stuff on, Alibaba and all these sites, and they're, but these are actually like, privately run small businesses that a lot of these factories are. And, the kind of unscrupulous cut costs, and they have bad quality control, but a lot of them are seriously working to do high quality production for the West and as export. And they're trying now to pivot because of the tariffs to domestic Chinese markets. It's impossible. There's just a few big companies that control it, and probably with association with the Communist Party, and their prices are so low that they just have to basically give away anything they've already produced for an export market. They have to give away at a loss because the domestic market prices are already at such a low level that there's no profit there. Right. So this is going to, small and medium-sized manufacturing in China is just going to be gone, if this continues. And it's these are in the family-run, like individual people. It's not this. We have this image of this faceless or this, Communist Party controlled. But just like in America, it's going to be the small
factory jobs,
small and medium businesses. They're going to be hurt by this tariff bullshit, and the big guys are going to be fine, and they're probably going to benefit because that can swallow up distribution routes, and they can take over what was abandoned by people that couldn't.
It's a shame you went out of business. Well, I'm going to buy you a rocket.
Yes.
Bottom prices, and
Yeah. So one more thing. So now that Trump is making exceptions for some industries that have a heavier influence on economic impact, it is even more apparent that it is all just a twisted posturing that leaves other industries like ours as unnecessary collateral damage, Childress wrote.
Sorry, isn't that our president?
Yeah, shouldn't he be dealing with China instead? Is his trade war with China or U.S. businesses? Yeah, that's very sad. So I was really sad to see that. I hope that doesn't hurt because they had so much success and they do such good quality games and they're like really continuing to support what they're doing. So Father Fair should, remain a player. And I think what Stonemeyer Games, the guys that do Scythe, were also saying that they're going to get hit hard too. Yeah, these big, like lushly produced with miniatures and lots of pieces and cards and stuff. They're if this keeps going on, and if it kind of is a waiting game, this war of attrition between America and China, we're going to see a lot of small and medium sized people bite the dust. So because we are talking, remember, about an 18-pound game. Gloomhaven.
Hey, that's no ogre, right?
right. So it is quite a thing to ship, and them having to deal with higher rates. So when we're talking about numbers, it's literally the cost to manufacture it, and then 200% on top of that was tariffs. So it's unsustainable. The numbers just won't work for them.
I think I saw something about like if it costs them like $20, the end result is like 69 something.
Right. Yeah. So it's brutal. All right, but so cover a little bit of that as it keeps going. So continuing coverage of the terrifying tariff wars. Yes, the trade war. So hopefully this will just be a quick over thing. But other news on the weekly. So also this week on the weekly, Jeremy Crawford retires. Oh yeah, we still got that. Jeremy Crawford retires, and we should pop up graphics all the time.
Yeah, we should.
Space Gits. CMON's David Preti steps down again. Keeps stepping down. Yes, it's a staircase of positions. And the last few days for the Battletech RPG bundle on Humble Bundle. So picking up where we left off last week with our Chris Perkins news. So we knew this. He's the other shoe, I guess we're saying. The other shoe drops. And Jeremy Crawford, who has been working for Wizards of the Coast since 2007 as a game designer, has also announced he'll be departing. So both Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford are departing after they're seeing it as a success after the current release of the 5th edition revised rule set, and they're going out on a high note, but I think they're getting out before things collapse.
Okay, I was going to say, like, if you want any chance of continuing to work for a corporate, like,
you're not going to MF them out going out the door, of course.
Yeah, no, you don't, right? That's why, sure, I read the news of both, Perkins and Crawford leaving with like extreme, not sarcasm is the wrong word, but just like, I'm like, okay, you're saying it's a high note and you're having that. Sure, you're saying what you need to say. Yeah. Right? And I said this on social media, like when I saw that, I'm like, I'm sure it was their own choice to leave. Ultimately, right? But I am positive that WotC is trying to pull like a GW where everything in the credit section is not going to say written by WotC staff. They don't want names associated with that, so that person can have a following that could then strip that following away when they go to something else. Right.
And I would hope that one or both of them kind of start doing their own thing. They go off and start their own companies.
Basically kind of like pull like a Duncan Road.
Right. And do their own thing and take advantage of this popularity because they've earned it. And it's no small accomplishment on what they've done because both of them were in since 4th edition. And to see this like D&D more popular probably than it was even in the 80s, but it's a pretty great thing to have been a part of, regardless of, Hasbro and all the I mean, it's a pretty impressive thing. And I think we talked about after you left last week. So where did Kyle end up? We found out that he's going to be in charge of the Disney trading card game now. He's over at Ravens. Yeah. Okay. Lorcana. So
Lorcana, whatever.
Yeah, he didn't far fall from this nonsense. So I guess they associated. Well, he must know something about magic, and we want to be magic. So hey, Kyle, come and work. It's Ravensburger. Yeah, the company that's doing the Disney game. But anyhow, back to the resignation. Yep. So Jesse Lanzillo had something to say. He said both of them had been working on Dungeons and Dragons for a very long time. What an observant guy. He's only been there for 2 years, so I guess he doesn't quite understand the scope.
I'm sure someone just stuck like a mic in front of this poor guy's face. Like when you're signing the farewell card at work, you're like, I've interacted with this person once.
Employee 0075 and 0076.
Good luck.
So it's been a point of discussion for some time and something that we've been training up everyone for. They really feel good about the teams that they have have in place and the legacy that they're passing on.
So one person's job is being taken over by a team.
Right. Yeah. That's
supporting my theory about written by WotC team.
Yeah. So he goes on to say they wanted to make sure that the core rulebooks were really successful and they were setting up the future leads for success. That has happened, okay, and they feel really reassured that folks in place will be able to carry on the wonderful legacy. He's repeating himself, and they have given us, and then bring their own stuff to the table, which they've already been doing. Okay, and so he goes on to say it's one of those things where you've finished a major keystone creative product, and you do ask yourself, okay, I have the next one in me for right. I have the next one in me for right now. Do I want something a little bit different? And I think any creative can identify with that. I think he's just putting the best possible spin on. Get the fuck out.
You of course.
But they have named, as you are correct, they have named no direct replacements. Okay. James Wyatt and Wes Schneider, who have been there, will be taking a bigger place at the table, corporate speak. They'll have more on their plate. Yeah. Their action item list will grow longer.
Bigger place at the table, but same size meal.
You're not getting an executive salary. Sorry. Yeah, so WotC's losing a combined 40 plus years of experience now, and they're just winging it. Yeah, they're turning it into gotcha, the some kind of loot box system anyhow. So Lanzillo goes on. Right now, we have folks in principal and lead roles that are escalating to take on more responsibility. We're
Name them.
Yeah, right.
I want their name.
Hasbro Gaming Group. We're looking at the team and our needs to figure out how to really construct the team in a way. I do not like how he talks. Where we
you're reading it with like a weird voice.
So. Everyone's strengths.
For all we know, this guy has a wonderful voice for radio.
Oh, yeah, excellent. Oh, he referred to us like he said, Chris and Jeremy don't need any substitutes at their moment. Yeah, actually, I think that's true. I think we see the roadmap. We know our roles.
I didn't put that together. That's hilarious. Yes, Chris and Jeremy.
Yes, this Chris and Jeremy are firmly in their positions, and we are not stepping down.
Hilarious.
So. Yes. It's so much Lanzillo. Okay. Yeah. So end of an era at WotC. So it's pretty, and they're most public faces. I think people know those names, and we saw that with when they were doing the revised edition, kind of the little talk about what was happening with the classes, what's happening with mechanics. It was just the two of them in a little conversation, talking about their approach to this new revised edition. So
like Perkins was the face of the DM and Crawford was the face of the rules.
Yeah. So Crawford was so he came in as a designer, later a rules manager for 4th edition, and when 5th edition happened, along with Perkins and Mike Merrills, they took over, and then he took over as lead rules developer and managing editor. So and it was also people might know him from his familiar Crawford's sage advice rulings on the system. So, and they're also saying, WotC's also saying, this is not corporate reshuffling. We're not pushing anybody out. It looks like, especially with the death of Sigil, it looks like they were kind of trying to push some people out with some experience and just be like, let's get some new blood in here that's not gonna, not gonna have much to
decisions.
Yeah. So as expected, this news came out right after we stopped recording. Right after we finished recording yesterday. Yeah. So if we would just held off another hour, we could have reported both of them resigning. So I hope that they can do something with their experience and celebrity.
Or maybe their RPG burned out.
Yeah, that's true. Or maybe it's just like, I'm getting out of this industry. I'm gonna refinish furniture.
That'd be hilarious.
But so good luck with that, and we'll keep an eye on because it'd be nice. I mean, when they this happened, they didn't ever create a real competitor, but all of the old timers that left Games Workshop, created Warlord Games and created a lot of competition against them. So we'll see if that actually happens.
That would be pretty interesting.
Just something I'm dying to get you into, and I think we've got enough bottle caps, dice, and orcs to make this happen.
Okay.
Space Gits. So a new dexterity-driven skirmish war game about drunk orcs.
I think I've seen this.
Yeah, so could 2025 be the best Orktober ever? It's possible.
Probably.
With this game, it's possible.
Orktober. Okay.
Yes, Orktober. It's just a few months away. So the Gits have wrecked the place again. So who's responsible for Space Gits? No less than Mike Hutchinson of Gaslands and Hobgoblin fame.
Okay.
Yeah, so And so he's been working on a ton of stuff, and this was the thing that he enjoyed the most, made him laugh, and said, I'm putting this out. Okay. So he's working with Cromlech, so that's why it might make a good October, to do some one exclusive and then a whole line of supporting, because once he kind of created this world, they just started designing for it and, you know, building the kind of ideas with orcs that he was thinking about. So they're doing models specific for this that will also be available after the campaign. Okay. There is one exclusive though. So the style of orcs pioneered in the 1990s by master sculptor Brian Nelson was the big inspiration for this. Silly, violent, robust, belligerent, blockheads, cunning, sneaky, and above all, funny. So Mike Hutchinson, that was his inspiration for Space Gits. So it is miniatures agnostic, even though Cromtech is creating stuff for it. And one box of Orc Boys would be enough for 2 players because it's a very small model count. Okay. So yeah, if you can get your hands on some old orcs, especially the good ones with all the fun bits.
Well, I was thinking the ones that are just like this, right? The old,
yeah, so they already have, Cromlech already has a large range of space orcs, but kind of theming more towards the drunken orc in this kind of city that he's created. So there are already, and in the rulebook itself, there will be photography of the Cromlech minis, photographed and painted by Billion Dollar Clown Farm. And there's also some Marauders from Mantic's Firefight in there. There is a quick start rules that you can download. I can think it's a 2-sided, like a one-page kind of 2-sided. But the book that they're going to be producing for the crowdfunding is a 128-page rule book, available $26 for the softcover, $45 for hardcover, the same quality as the Hobgoblin. Okay. Yeah, so he said specifically they're using the same Lithuanian press, so it's going to be the same nice quality. They're producing originally 2 orc navigators, both in flight glasses and bomber jackets, and those are the ones, yes, but specifically made for this game. Rules are intentionally very, very silly, and the orcs are also drunk out of their minds. So the objective is to grab the most loot. So you're using bottle caps, like beer bottle caps, just dropped on the board to represent the loot, and you move rolling dice, and it's a very fun system. So there's dexterity involved, and you're rolling 3 dice for the movement, but the movement is just whatever the value of the dice is, you can move that many inches in the direction of that die. Yeah, so you'll watch the video to explain. So it's you're rolling 3 dice wherever they land. Those are the points. And it's like I can move 1 inch towards that die. Okay, now that's gone. I can move 6 inches towards that die. Now that's gone. So
I see. You can stack them, right? Okay.
So they're staggering around. Yeah, easy curves of movement. So to move the dice in the play area, you move directly towards them wherever they land. And then you roll rolling dice and spraying bullets towards them. So you're also shooting and trying to get into melee and picking up you loot as you go. And the dexterity part is once you're taking damage, the models will have a stack of d6s next to them. And you have to move the stack of so they call it the dice tower. It's a little confusing, but the stack of d6s and the mini have to move at the same time. So if you knock down the tower, the orc is unconscious.
Wait, they have to move at the same...
Yeah, you have to push the tower and the orc together. The dice have to be touching the model the whole time, the base of the model. And
I'm gonna have to go look at this because I'm wondering if you're allowed to make like a space on the base of the model for the dice tower.
Well, you probably could. That might be cheating a little bit, but yeah, I think the hard thing is that having to keep it in contact, so moving it and trying to keep it from.
So the orcs are drunk during the game. Are you supposed to be drunk?
You will be. You should be. Yes. So you have to move this little pile of dice beside them. It represents their ability to stand upright. If it ever tips over, the orc is flat out on his back until one of his mates wakes him up.
I kick.
Yes. So the rules will include guns and gear, vehicles, drunk driving, which is not endorsed by Mike Hutchins personally, campaigns with tables of loot and injuries, and your criminal record, and even factions. So this dice system that he's come up with is going to be released under Creative Commons. So anybody that likes this kind of crazy dexterity mechanic can use it.
When you reminded me that with Mike Hutchinson, he has a bunch of stuff on itch that's similar. That's kind of the Creative Commons, the basic kind of framework for the game.
Yeah, that's really cool that he's done that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people kind of praising the rules because they're available for free. There's beta test rules for the full thing, and then of course the quick start, which you can play right away. So the book will feature art by miniature painter Tyler Rousseau, that's of the $1 Billion Clown Farm, and illustrator Till Forster. So Eternal is his name. And then, of course, a collaboration with Cromlech. So Drunk Ass Space Orc. So 2 to 5 players takes under an hour, and they're encouraging, kit bashing. Can be played as a drinking game and orc on orc combat with campaign rules. So yeah, Space Gits is intended for an immature adult audience and contains depictions of alcohol and rioting. Its rules have been rated severe for jank. Okay. Yes. So and combat is resolved by kind of a rock paper scissors. So throw, shove, pinch, or thump, and those kind of cancel each other out. And so yeah, you do a rock paper scissors to see who. So you only need 3 to 5 models. You need at least a 2 by 2 foot space to play, buttload of D6s, some bottle caps or tokens, and then
I did say a buttload.
A buttload of dice and a tape measure, or he says he actually prefers, because the measurements are pretty small, a short wooden school ruler will work.
Yeah.
So so the page itself has a lot of writing by Hutchinson about just why he did this and what he's trying to do. So I'm creating the rulebook myself, doing the game design, writing, and layout. I've written 28 pages of drunken goodness, which I'm laying out myself as a hardback book, full color throughout. It will be A5. I'm really looking forward to making something that fully represents me and my passion. I'm really inspired by the books of Shane Sutter, Relic Blade, Kevin Rahman, Forbidden Psalm. What they have made, they are my benchmark.
I'm more on board with a 128-page rule book now that I know it's A5. So
nice.
I'm like, how are you?
Right.
Okay, right. A5. Yeah.
Yes. So Standard Art Impresa, based in Lithuania, will be doing the same printers that did the Hobgoblin book. So I'll have a matte soft touch cover and some laminated details. So in the book is information about the city of Gnork, so the quick start rules, information about the new Gits, the game rules themselves, gather your lads, gear and guns and gear, and then vehicles. So this might also be a kind of a simplified Gorka Morka substitution as well. Yeah. So campaign rules and factions as well. So yeah, it looks fun. And he said also in kind of conclusion, if the campaign goes well, I'll likely return to Kickstarter in a year or so with an expansion. So he really wants to keep supporting this. And so after all the details, the bundle, there's a 2-player bundle, which gives you enough miniatures and terrain and everything basically to do everything. So kind of a starter set. But they also have, just the book or the book and a few of the exclusive miniatures or a few of the terrain pieces, because they're doing like vending machines and kind of really fun thematic stuff. And of course it goes up to almost like $500 with huge sets of Cromlech, Cromlech miniatures and terrain and things. But very interesting and unique. So the Officer Crunk is the model that is exclusive to this campaign. So he crunches down the filthy streets of West Gnork, feared and respected in equal measure. But everything else will be available after. And they even broke some of the collections into different kits. So the City Boys, the Grill Cooks, the Fuzz Kit, I guess the Cops. Oh, that's right, because I think there's a timer and the cops show up. Like, so basically, you're the orc cops show up if your drunken brawl goes on a little too far. And they did goblins as well. So so all the miniatures and terrain except for Crunk will be available from Cromlech, and and they even have an official Space Git birth certificate generator.
I don't think orcs got
to create. Well, I guess now they do. But and he also said this campaign is highly influential on my ability to continue to make games for you. So talked about as a number of projects available on itch.io. And this funding for this, even though if this isn't the thing you've always been waiting for, will help him continue to crank out more work. And it looks really fun. He's expected to ship it. I mean, things are, who knows? But October 2025, so October of this year, they expect to be. So they'll do fulfillment between July and October, and be finishing up over the summer. So that looks fun, and I think we've got free rules and we've got bottle caps laying around and some D6s. So let's do this. We do.
I certainly have
Fallout.
I certainly have a lot. Oh, right, okay. I was thinking like there is a bag, like a garbage bag, full of PET bottle caps in my office kitchenette.
Nice.
That's what we're allowed to use.
Now I've got Nuka-Cola caps. We can use that. They're already distressed and everything for Fallout. All right, so some more corporate shenanigans and probably things that have been influenced by tariff wars and bad financial statements. CMON's Dave Preti steps down as the non-executive director after resigning as chief operating officer. So it just dun. Okay. Yes. So he is stepping away for other work commitments, which I don't know exactly what that's meaning, but yeah, the publisher of Zombicide and Marvel United, CMON, could face losses of about $2 million for 2024. They have a scrap deal to sell IPs for about $20 million, and two shareholders that were due to invest $1.39 million into the business failed to hand over the funds. So their financial statements look terrible. So Preti joined in 2026 as creative director, moved up to COO in 2018, and became executive director in 2022. But yeah, became non-executive last September because it was in the best interest of the shareholders and financial backers. So I guess maybe take less of a paycheck.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, so and he was responsible for restructuring their distribution business model, working with Asmodee, and that generated what he says, quote, that generated a great influx of cash for the company and greatly streamlined our operating costs. And that's why we're in the trouble we are now, because we got overconfident about how good this market actually was. So they had some new licensing deals with companies like Mattel, Netflix, CD Projekt Red, Marvel, and Marvel via Spin Master, using the IPs of the company, but nobody knows the state of any of that. Marvel versus Zombicide did well, made $22 million in crowdfunding. So they've been doing really IP heavy stuff. So it's not been very interesting. A lot of Marvel stuff.
Well, obviously it's been interesting if they're getting in like 2.8 million on a
but
Marvel
that's not
Zombicide.
enough. And that's not enough to keep them afloat. That's they're still reporting losses, but we're fine. I think it's like, the shipping and manufacturing, all of that stuff is so they had 12 years of running Kickstarter campaigns, but then stepped away from Kickstarter to do an exclusivity deal with GameFound, and we don't know if that's also contributing. So they had made a total of $108 million on Kickstarter through 60 campaigns, beginning in 2012 with the first edition of Zombicide.
Here's where we've talked about this before, and I would love to know. Okay, they've made $108 million.
Yes.
I would like to know how much they've spent.
Probably $208 million. Oops. Yes. So they've done things like DC Superheroes United, Cthulhu Death May Die, the Forbidden Reaches expansion. And so they have just completed the $2.85 million for the Massive Darkness Dungeons of Shadow Reach, which is basically a 5e campaign. So it's a game, but it also has like 5e components. So I don't know if that was a good move. They're a little late at that. But the rising costs of living and everything, they say, are causing them to miss their stock exchange deadline for publishing their financial results. And due to that, they were suspended. Their shares were suspended from trading on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. They bring up the tariff issue is really going to start to hurt them. And it's especially difficult with crowdfunding when you have these variables, because you charge a price, and then 5 years later, you might be actually shipping the thing, and that's a whole different world that you're doing that in. So they susceptible to large cost changes. So CMON has 10 yet to be delivered crowdfunding projects.
That's why right, like
I'm glad. I don't think I've backed them for a long time. So right about when things started to feel shaky.
Oh, okay. I'm certainly by no means like a libertarian, right? So like not even close. But my thought was like, my first thought was, shouldn't there be some kind of like regulatory oversight that says, you know what, buddy, you haven't delivered on 10 of these. How about you put the brakes on like starting another Kickstarter, right?
Kickstarter is not a pre-order. It is a donation, right? Or whatever.
Then I thought like, is it really someone's job to say, right? Anyway,
they're doing their best. That's all they've got to do. If any of these were
they're doing
from
their best to scam people out of their money. Right?
They tried so hard.
I'm sure they did. Really, like 10 yet to be delivered.
I know. Yeah, so Zombicide White Death, the 3.8 million campaign, is the next game due Q2 of this year. We'll see if that shows up. Yeah, so 5 of which are there's already 7 more titles available for pre-order, which are still probably in production. So they say that White Death, the Zombicide expansion, is making its way to the hubs. It's been dispatched from China, but if it shows up, it's going to get a 245% tariff on it, and who knows if maybe they'll just sink the container in the ocean and be done with it. So we'll see. Come on, they were probably the big stars and the first big money makers of early board game Kickstarter. They had such huge success, and it was original IPs. Zombicide and the stuff that was their stuff that they owned, and then they had the Eric Lang series of games that they did. Those are all really great and fun, and I think those times are just over.
How much IP is in Zombicide?
Yeah, right. Zombies and yes. But so good luck to Come On. Their era is over, but hopefully they can kind of become something that still functions.
Hopefully they can deliver on those.
Yeah, and deliver, not just rip off thousands of people. Let's hope. All right, and finally, you get just 2 days, probably about a little bit more than 24 hours, to get in on the Humble Bundle for the Battletech RPG Collection by Catalyst Game Labs. So become a legend of mechanized mayhem, Chris. So the role playing. So a lot of these books supported the role playing, but also the worlds. They released the Battletech Universe book, so that's available in a digital form, and that basically is the lore of the setting, and probably a pretty good thing. It's going to be so for $1 you can get some of the early. Some of the individual RPG books, but the full bundle of all 20 items is $18, and that gives you Battletech Universe, which is the setting book, Battletech Manual, and then just tons of supporting the recognition guides. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, and probably these are not cheap. They sometimes get discounted on online retailers, but they're already their suggested retail price is pretty high. So the value of this bundle is like $335. So it's a lot of stuff. And if you're interested in the setting, especially this book, this book that they've just released, this is a good way to get it. Probably the cheapest way. Yeah.
DRM free, right? If
it's if it's Humble Bundle, and the charity is No Kid Hungry that the funds are going to. So you can and you can also kind of manipulate your who gets how much of the. So if you don't like Catalyst Labs but you like hungry kids, you can give the hungry kids as much as they need. But so this is just a few days. A few days left, maybe 2 to get in on this, and so we're a little bit late reporting on it. But if you want that lore, if you want that setting, you don't get any of the gothic stuff, but you get all of the established setting.
The only lore we recognize this in this house is Data's brother.
All right. So that's going to do it for this week. So where can people find you?
Blue Sky and Instagram occasionally. That's Hivemind, HYVEMYND, where it's all tiny miniatures all the time.
All the time. All tiny.
All tiny. All the time. And those are actually getting... Okay. Very hard. Not hard to paint, but very different to paint. Because you're not painting miniatures. They're miniatures. You're painting like the impression of a huge block of troops. Or like, you look at someone and you're like... When you get real close, you're like, that looks like garbage. But then you're going to see it at like 2 arms length. And you're like...
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like... from seeing some of your photos, it's almost like painting bases, like details on bases, and trying to get them. Oh, I want this to kind of look like flowers, or kind of look like you're doing something at such a small scale, and just the merest suggestion of things.
That's what it is.
You're trying to get across.
One of the things I'm running up against, like, okay, I have trouble with color, and I think even more so than 28 millimeter or other scales, color is really important because there's no like model definition between the different parts. You got to represent that with color, right? And also contrast, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to kind of like not realistic, but you don't want everything like super bright, but you also want it to be able to see, okay, this is base, this is horse, this is like tunic, this is whatever, and you got to do that with the different values of color. So it's interesting and very different from painting larger, coarser scales.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I want to see some of these in like real life. I've seen photos, but I want to see them.
They're only about like, the whole army is only about like that big, right? Anyway,
nice.
Cool. So where can people find you?
They found me a few days ago on my cartoon live stream. Yes, so that shows up on this channel as well as Abuse Cartoons on YouTube and Twitch. Recently, the Go Comics website has been revamped, so it's bigger and more beautiful and wonderful. But my cartoons look small and pathetic, so I resized a bunch of them. So everything for this year is up to the bigger size and looks nice. But I'll gradually go through and update that. But all the comments are gone, so I wonder if they're gonna. Yeah, that's like 20 years of comments that I can't. I can't. All that insult. I can't.
You can't Wayback Machine that?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. It's a very fun. Yeah, I mostly copy the really mean stuff. I copied and pasted out because I always put that on the back of any collections I do. That goes on the back of the book instead of the praise. But yeah, so I draw my single panel gag cartoon, Domestic Abuse, and eat some Japanese convenience store nonsense. And yeah, it's a nice long hang. It was about 4 hours, the stream last time. Man. And yeah, do like a month's worth of cartoons. GoComics.com/domestic abuse if you want to read the archive of 20 years of that in their all new redesigned website. But if you like what we're doing here with the weekly, consider becoming a weekling.
The strongest of all supporters.
You can do that at patreon.com/upturnedtable. You can also click the join button below to become a member on YouTube. And that will give you the same things, except for Patreon has an RSS feed of this audio for the live stream and all of our audio releases that you can get directly on your phone. So stuff that it doesn't go out normally with the podcast aggregator, because we cut this down to just this part. You don't get all the all the ramble and the banter and all that. The before and afters is gone, but it sounds so nice. So
it's auto-tuned.
Yes, so listen for that. Listen to that on Patreon, and yeah, so. It's upturntable.com and for the main website, and then Upturntable on all social media if you want to follow what is going on. Tomorrow we're going to be doing another session of the Fallout RPG, nice. So the Modifius 2D20, and it's been really fun. It's got the flavor is there, and the supporting adventures and stuff they've written have that nice flavor. You can tell it's like fans of the game, and they're really enjoying kind of playing around in that world and making stuff that feels like the game but is new. It's not like just retreading stuff that they've done before in a video game setting. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Later, mortals.
Goodbye.